here, actually, and I know that sounds a little bit strange given the subject matter, but truth be told, I'm feeling really optimistic because it's so enlightening when a strong group of people can come together and gather for one solid objective that is today, essentially, to address the epidemic that is domestic violence.
I explained to her these check boxes. In her situation, she absolutely and critically needed the box for assault and harassment to be checked, in addition to terroristic threats, because her spouse had threatened to kill her and she was in fear for her life. In this situation, the intake unit of the Domestic Violence Division at the courthouse unfortunately presented her with an administrator who had very good intentions, unfortunately was uneducated. And when she said in her very vulnerable moment, I need to make sure that this is checked, that's checked, and the other is checked, and the intake unit representative said, I'm only allowed to check one box. Thankfully, she had me as a resource. She called me, I said, put him on the phone. We're gonna have a talking. And ultimately, he refused. He was adamant. I have had training, I know what I'm doing, and I will not check off any but one box, and I checked off assault. Well, I knew that not the only way, but to strengthen her likelihood of obtaining the restraining order at that very moment was to have those other boxes checked.
I found Barry's presentation very informative, effective, and great that her law firm is going to put the resources on the website. We see a lot of victims, they just don't have a clue when it comes to applying for these types of things because they've never had to in the past. So having kind of a step-by-step how-to is just perfect.
She said, after spending almost a decade in an abusive relationship, I found freedom just over a year ago. But it's not as I expected. I thought I would be happy, or sad, or feel hate, something. But still after a year, I feel nothing. I feel as if I'm hollow. You know, it brings me back to why we're doing this, why we're helping. Because even after the abuse is ended, it really hasn't ended. It's only time to start the healing, and that's why we're in this. We're in this to help.
You know, as far as the legal restraining orders, how to go about teaching my client, who I would see in therapy, that there are possibilities to do this without making it a major family disruption that people are worried about.
I could go on and on about a lot of the different, psychological effects that, children have when they're exposed to domestic violence. But the one thing I do want to say is kids really have the capacity to turn things around. We all know that the likelihood of them being a repeat offender is high, having experienced it themselves. But if you do get the intervention in place, if you do get treatment in place, they are very resilient, and they have the opportunity to learn that those behaviors are not okay, that it wasn't their fault, and then you have a chance of them not replicating those dynamics in their lives.
I thought it was a fantastic event. I think there was a great deal of information that was disseminated and a lot of really good questions to really, further the knowledge base of domestic violence and its impacts and what are some treatment options and some legal options. It really kind of, made everything make sense when you have all the varying perspectives of the different people on the panel, from the legal perspective, from the mental health perspective. I felt it was a great way to disseminate information. I think I learned the most from the legal perspective because I would say I kind of shy away from that in my clinical work because I'm really concerned about the patient, but the legal is very important, so I can tell patients what their rights are and at least get them to the resources and to the knowledge to get them the legal help that they need.
One of the reasons that keeps victims in abusive situations is not knowing where to go and what resources are available to them. So the more we increase the access points in the communities for them to get that information, the less likely that's the reason that may be causing them to stay in that abusive situation.
I thought it was great having a panel of providers from different areas of the community, different professions, talking about the same issue with the same goals in mind. And it was certainly great having this audience here and so many people that are interested in getting the information. I think I made more connections that we could start bridging some of the gap and provide some more advocacy within the community.
There have been incidents where they feel like they can't say anything to the judge because they feel like the judge is rushing them because there's so many cases right behind them, and what resources we have as a community to address that issue.
I've been in there and I've said, Your Honor, I appreciate that you have a whole courtroom full of people. I genuinely do, and they all deserve your attention. However, we would be remiss if we did not address this at this moment. Please allow me to be heard for one more moment. It's imperative for the safety and well-being of my client. If you have the impression that the victim will not be able to find that voice, have an advocate go with them, whether it's from a resource center or it's from a counsel perspective, because that's my role. That's what we do. I won't walk out of that courtroom without saying what needs to be said if my client has safety issues. That won't happen. The judge can tell me to stop 14 times over and I will keep going. That's my job. So my suggestion is just make sure that that person has the mechanisms and the resources and the support necessary when they cross that threshold into the courtroom.
Part of my job is to do legal advocacy, so learning about restraining orders and how to help victims, do them in the best way possible. That was an important part for me to learn.
Ultimately, when you put an event like this together, you want people to come here and find value and to be motivated, to ask questions, to get more information, to become even more educated. And the fact that people were interactive and got involved and had so many questions led me to believe that they really took a lot away and that they're going to further investigate or do what they need to do to pull things together and collaborate amongst each other.